Hi everyone, Mary at Espresso Press Design. Welcome, thank you for stopping by. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to make some book page bags that just came about from a serendipitous way. They came about mostly because I just wanted something to do, and book pages were the closest thing I had available. And it turned out so well that I thought I would share it, and maybe you'll like it too. And apparently I had bags on my mind from a video I watched from Cindy T. I'll post a link to that video. These aren't anything really like hers, but hers were gorgeous, so I'll share the video anyway, because it must have inspired me in some way. So just a little overview, some upcoming projects, and then we'll get started. If I remember to talk about this, I'll try to fit it in, but I just realized right before I started and had to find something, what a perfect metaphor this might be for the creator's dilemma. But anyway, this is an upcoming, and I can see I have two things in front of the window, and I can see I'm getting a shadow already, but there's nothing I can do about it. So if you like shoes, as all women do, I hoped that I would have finished this by Friday, but I didn't. But it will be coming soon. And that's the theme. Shoes in general, or in particular I should say. And I probably should have cleaned this off as well. This is probably going to be an upcoming project. Just something that I did to, I have all these little types of scraps. Some floral images, birds, scenery, just some things left over from these little scraps that don't really require. This particular scrap pile is getting so low that I want it. I thought it would be the easiest to dispose of. So I began making these little, I don't know, I'm calling them vignettes. And I know you're not going to be able to tell this entirely, but they're kind of like decoupage, and they have wax paper on top. And it makes these lovely, very vintage type looking objects, and they're made with, I had to get rid of these scraps, and my packaging material is also getting out of hand. So they're very sturdy, and you know, can be made any size, any type of image. I just want to make sure that the wax paper holds up on top, which I'm pretty sure it will, but I don't foresee any type of peeling or anything off of this. And I think these would be a sellable little type of ephemera if anyone wants to try it. They're very nice and not too difficult. So that's moving on to today's project, and these are the types of bags I have been doing. The majority are out of book pages. And what is nice about this is that you'll be strengthening your bag so that you can emboss it without the paper tearing apart. It knocks the text to the background without using gesso. You'll get, depending on which way you put it in your embossing folder, you'll get either the emboss side or the deboss side. And that effect kind of determines how your text is going to show through. So it's really interesting. It's quick. You can whip these out in a very short time. And in particular, I was thinking ahead to Easter and, you know, creating some little bags too. That's actually green. I don't know why that's showing up that color, but it's green. Was looking for some little bags I might tuck in an Easter basket. And then I moved on to trying it with digitals, and it worked just as well. And so that's what we're going to be working on today, and maybe next week as well. I'll move on to showing you how to do the digitals, because I just want to experiment with that a little more on what type of paper would be best. So, okay, what you're going to need is your book page. This particular book is 6 by 9, and you are going to need the magic material, which, one second, I forgot something, and is either your napkin remnants from separating your napkins, tissue paper, or the infamous toilet paper. Just a second here. Let me get it. There we go. Any one of these will do, as long as it's sheer and you can still see your text through, and that's going to depend on what your initial material is. And then you'll need some glue. You'll need an embossing folder of your choice. Today I'm going to use this one just because it's a little more open than the leaf pattern, and you can see the text clearly through it. So I have everything in stages here just for time's sake, and I'm going to do step 1 and 2. Remember the tips I have for you, and just get this bag assembled and then move on to each step. So it's pretty simple. You just want to put your bag in such a way that you have a little overlap. Pull down the sides. I'm going to burnish this a little bit. Get my bottom done. It's just simply like constructing your basic paper bag. And then I have been using my corner, or my, I would call this more a tag corner. But you have to make sure that your fold is exactly the size that will fit in there if you want to try that. It's one of those type of punches. And I find it handy just for making sure that both sides are the same, because I'm kind of what's the word? Obsessive. And when they turn out too different, it kind of bothers me. Although you could also use your tag template to do the same. So the main tip I would say is make sure your glue is dry. Make sure you don't get any seepage so that that doesn't stick together, which I have accidentally done that before. So you might want to put something in there just to make sure your glue isn't seeping. And that's pretty much it for the basic construction. Oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna trim this one off a little bit. Okay. And boy, once I started making these, it didn't take me long to do however many I have here. 6 or I think I have 6 altogether. I also made a couple with music pages. Now I have all these bags, but I'm sure they will be storing something. So you can just make these to put your little treats in or whatever. Usually I tuck something in an Easter basket in its own little paper type package. So that was what I had in mind. Don't know what will be in them, but... And then her bags were so cute. She put a little handle on them. And then she adorned them. Adorned the bottom of the handle with buttons. And I thought that was very cute. So the next step is going to be applying your napkin or your toilet paper, whatever the case may be. And for this particular project, I've been using glue stick because once you get it down there, your napkin or whatever isn't going to come loose. But you use whatever type of adhesion you're comfortable with. So the other thing, when you begin to ink over this, if it's going to bother you that you have a straight edge that might show up when the ink runs over 2 different surfaces, and it does show up a little, then just tear your edges if that straight line is going to bother you. And then you're going to flip it over and do the other side. And you can put as many layers as you want on there. I tried 1, 2, and 3. I mean, maybe you could go up more than that and your emboss will be a little puffier. That might be an effect you might want to explore. But I personally did 1, 2, or 3 layers. And I found that 2 was about right. It gives your bag enough extra protection so that your embossing folder doesn't tear the paper. And it knocks the text back so that you don't have to worry about what your book pages actually say so much. I mean, if someone really wanted to get in there and read it, they probably could, but basically it's just turning everything into a design element. So I have 1 layer both sides. I'm going back to the front to apply my 2nd layer. And then the final tip, well, I don't know if it's the final, the other tip, you probably definitely want to make sure this is dry before you run it through your Sizzix, because if it sticks, you're just going to pull things off and make a mess. So that's why I have things done in steps here. And I'm also not going to bring the Sizzix over here, just because I would have to stand up anyway, and what's out of your eyesight, thankfully, is my table is completely covered here, because I haven't taken the time this week to be as neat as I usually am. And you want to make sure everything is down securely, otherwise your emboss might lift it. And I see already I have an area that needs secured a little better. But this was just the ticket. And again, depends which way you tear, if you're going to get a straight or a jagged tear. Oh, that reminds me, I have another piece of mamagami to show. But I kind of needed a break from that, so that's what led to this. It's just a little break. Okay, I can still feel that's cool and definitely tacky. So with this, I would wait for that to dry before I did anything else. And that leads to the next step. So once it's dry, you are going to run it through your embossing folder as is. And what I call this is fusing. I've mentioned it, I forget how many videos back, but when we were doing the mask making ephemera, when you glue 2 images together or 2 things together and run it through your machine, those 2 things literally become one, and you can barely even feel the seam of where they might meet. So that helps a lot. But you definitely want to do that when this is dry as well, or you're just going to have everything sticking to your plates. So that's this step where the tissue is just fused to the bag. And that way you make sure that, you know, nothing is sticking and everything is, all your edges are completely sealed to the bag. So that's step 2. And then here is step 3 with the embossing, which I already did. And I know you're not going to see this because it's white. There's a pretty good view. And there's the deboss side on the back. So then I'm just going to choose an ink color here. Well, I got some new inks, but they're too juicy, so I don't want to use those. Okay. Well, let's see. I want something. This pink is so bright. Let me try. I know I probably just jolted the camera there, sorry. Let me try these colors on here and see which one might work the best. And here we go. This is the part I hate. Where if I'm not careful, I'm going to get that stupid shape with this. Well, that's pretty bright. Let me try the pink. That's not too bad. Try this. Okay, this one is probably the most cautious. But for your sake, I'll try the pink so that you can see it. Okay, this is the scariest part in my humble opinion. And that is trying to start off the edge so that I can get a good swipe. Okay, it's working. There you go. You can see the text is moved to the background and the image comes forth. The embossing comes forth and you have a nice little bag. I'm going to go the other way just because that's easier for me. You have a nice little bag, and how much you choose to accentuate, it's up to you. Okay, there is the deboss side. Let me stand up here. Let me try to get this. There we go. There's the deboss. Here's the emboss. And you can see the text is pretty much moved to the background. This napkin hides a little better than the ones I've been using previously, but it's very pretty. So now it's just a matter of trimming the edges. I mean, the first ones I really didn't even leave an edge to worry about, and my tissue didn't even go to the edge. So I didn't have to really worry about doing this at all. Just minorly, in a minor way, I should say. And then, let me see if I have a pink sponge here. That'll work. This ink is so juicy though, it doesn't, there. Then you can just do your edges. And I should have torn that a little better. I don't mind the torn edge at the top. Actually, I like it. So I didn't worry about putting a bag type edge at the top, you know, with a notch. I just went with how it looked as I tore it out of the book. And then you can just do your edges. As nicely as you want. You'll end up with a much sturdier little bag than just the book page itself. And half the time you can never even do this with you definitely can't do it with an older book. But even with a new book, it would be difficult to get a sturdy little bag. Let me just make sure I can. Okay, that's the other point. It makes something, putting a piece of paper on the inside. You might want to do that as you're embossing as well, because it depends on your embossing folder how much it fuses that back and front together. In particular, this one, it fuses, because there's so much embossed, it fuses them together so well that you have to go really slow to get them apart, if that makes sense. So when I use an embossing folder like that, I discovered that it was best to put another piece of paper in between there. It just depends how thick your embossing folder is and what it actually does to the surface, I guess is the best way to say that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. What's the other tip? Oh, here. When I was doing these ones, this is more for the next time if I do another one, but I'm guessing it's probably not going to be necessary. But when I did this, I didn't like the fact that this made my surface white, and that made it different from the paper background color tone. So just a tip, if you want to coffee dye your napkins, you can do that. Just get a stack, make some coffee or tea in a spray bottle, spray them, spray the stack, let it dry completely. You'll be able to separate them, and you'll have your tinted napkins that will probably blend with your paper a lot better if the white standing out happens to bother you. So that's just a tip regarding those. And the other tip is I wanted the deboss on the front. I used a text embossing folder, therefore the text came out backwards. So just remember to pay attention to what this one turned out fine because I wanted the deboss on the front. I decided I like that better. And I remembered to put my bag in correctly so I could get what I wanted. Just depends how you lay it in the folder. Like typically you would just put it in like that and you would get your emboss on that side. But if you want it differently, just flip which side you put it in your embossing folder. And I actually have samples of each side so I can remember how to do that properly. But that's just the other tip that I can think of. And the other one is, in this particular instance, I didn't want to cover all the background. So there's virtually just a little strip of the tissue covering the paper. So the majority of this is still the paper, and there's just a little area of tissue for the embossing to show up as well as it is. And there's how different the back looks. Okay, 33 minutes. I think that's pretty good and pretty self-explanatory. And I didn't have time to talk about my shoe and making sure the shoe fits as you're creating, and basically it was just, you know, how to be more satisfied with your own style as opposed to trying to keep copying what other people do and then not being happy with, not feeling as if what's the word? Just feeling inadequate that your results aren't coming out the way another person's work is that you might admire. Just consider that maybe that's just not your style and you can appreciate it from afar, but it doesn't necessarily fit your own style. And if you're feeling that way, maybe that's a clue that you need to, you might want to try reinterpreting something in a different way, and then, you know, in the end you might be more happy with the actual result. But that's just a feeling that I've had myself, and I've seen a lot of other people express. Sometimes when you begin exploring something, you have the way it was done in your mind so much that that's the expectation you're setting up for yourself. and it's not really necessary. You can take that technique or project and take it in a direction that's going to make you happier. Okay, don't want to be too long, but thanks for your time. I hope you find this helpful. I hope you find it enjoyable, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Bye.